Welcome back to Harville. Today, as we've reported, a federal judge blocked President Obama's 6-month moratorium on deep-water drilling. Joining me right now is Congressman Steve Scalise, a Republican from Louisiana. Congressman, I have to ask you this. Here's Rush Limbaugh on the Joe Barton comment today.
And it was a shakedown, pure and simple. And somebody had the audacity to call it what it was, and everybody's running for the hills.
Well, that was yesterday, actually, but it's been 42 days now since we've been asking Republican members of Congress to stand up and say Rush Limbaugh doesn't speak for the Republican Party. Congressman Scalise, here's your chance. Is it Rush Limbaugh or your leadership that's right on Joe Barton?
Well, Chris, first of all, Joe Barton has apologized. I spoke with him the other day, and I accept his apology. What frustrates me is that you still don't see the sense of urgency from this administration, and they've got the legal responsibility to direct the efforts on the ground, and they're just not doing it. That's what angers people back home in South Louisiana, where I just came back from over just earlier today.
Well, my job is to ask these questions. Do you think that Rush Limbaugh's right? It was a shakedown. Is he and Barton right, or is the leadership right in saying it was wrong to apologize on the part of the Republican Party to BP?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to listen to his show. I like his show. I think he offers a lot of good, interesting commentary. But the bottom line is, when you look at what's not happening on the ground, and our local leaders will tell you, just the other day, we had vacuum barges that were sent back to the docks by the Coast Guard, and they gave absolutely no reason why those barges, which would have been sucking up oil that would have prevented oil from getting into our marsh, were sent back to the docks. It spent over a day where the Coast Guard gave absolutely no explanation, and the federal government still to this day won't tell us who's in charge when problems go on the ground like they're doing just 2-3 days ago. I mean, this is inexcusable. We cannot afford these kind of delays.
Well, what about the big news that the federal government has asked BP to set aside a $20 billion escrow account? Some Republicans like Joe Barton have said that that is a shakedown, that that's wrong. It's a slush fund. Rush Limbaugh agrees with that point of view. Your party leadership doesn't. Who speaks for you? Your party leadership on that point, or Rush Limbaugh on that point? Who's your leader?
Well, Chris, I speak for myself, and John Boehner's the Republican leader. But if you look at what's going on out there, we haven't been given any details on how this money is going to be spent. I sure hope it doesn't become some kind of slush fund where Washington bureaucrats spend the money on things that aren't related to people on the ground. My main concern is that the money gets into the hands of those people who are affected.
What is that attack you're making here? First of all, will you answer the question, is Rush Limbaugh right here or wrong?
Well, again, I didn't listen to his comments earlier, Chris, but what I've said is I want real transparency and accountability with the money.
Is it a shakedown?
I wasn't in those meetings, Chris, but I mean, again, where's the money going to be spent?
Why is everybody in the Republican Party afraid of Limbaugh, a radio talk show host? When he says something totally contradictory to your party leadership, can't you say, I'm with the party leadership?
Is that Chris, hard? I speak for myself. I've told you who I speak for, and that's myself. Nobody else speaks for me. And ultimately, I'm trying to solve problems on the ground, and they're still not getting fixed.
Okay, just to make it simple. Rush Limbaugh does not speak for you on the issue whether BP was shaken down or not.
No, he doesn't speak for me. I speak for myself.
Okay.
But ultimately, I'm going to continue fighting to try to make sure that the money gets into the hands of those people who are affected, and many of them still haven't gotten that help, but ultimately that our leaders get the help they need on the ground to get the oil out of our marsh, and they're not doing a good enough job of that right now.
What don't you like about the decision to have an escrow account? You're accusing the administration of taking that money and putting it into some sort of political patronage fund. What makes you believe the administration will decide where that money goes? Where did you get that idea?
Well, Chris, first, I've never made that accusation. What I said is I want to see it. I've asked to find out where that money is going to go. How is it going to be spent? I think even the guy running the fund over the weekend wouldn't really tell anybody how it's going to be set up. So ultimately, when you're talking about $20 billion that's supposed to go for people on the Gulf Coast who are affected by this oil spill, I think we all want to make sure that it's spent helping those people whose way of life right now is destroyed. I don't think people want to see that wasted on government bureaucracy here in Washington. It needs to get in the hands of people on the ground.
Who said 1 cent of it is going to a bureaucracy in Washington? Who says that? Where'd you get that idea from that you're concerned about?
I never said I've got the idea. I said I want to make sure that doesn't happen because no one will tell us.
What makes you think it would happen? Why are you going after a straw man, a red herring here?
Chris, have you seen what they're doing to the Social Security Trust Fund up here?
Here we go.
That fund's rated every day on things that have nothing to do with Social Security. I want to make sure that fund gets in the hands of people who deserve it, and no one's told us what that money is going to be used for yet.
In other words,
I think we deserve that
this
answer.
This is just pure pure partisan politics, what you're doing
Chris,
here.
I don't know why you're not concerned where the $20 billion is going to go.
Because you're attacking something that's never happened. It's never happened with this. You think BP is going to make checks out to what? Welfare recipients? Or are they going to make the checks out to people who have legal claims against them?
Do you know? Because right now we're not seeing the stuff getting done on the ground.
Because the only way they're going to spend a nickel is if their own fiduciary responsibility allows them to make payments, which could only be to people with legal claims against them.
So you're telling me that BP is going to run this fund? Who's going to run the fund?
Apparently it's going to be run.
I don't know if you know that. I sure don't. I'd like to know. I think the people on the Gulf Coast have a right to know.
Okay,
because
so you
want to make sure it gets into their hands.
Okay, great. Well, that's fair enough. It's just pure politics. Thank you, Congressman Steve Solis, for joining us now. Let's go. Let's bring in Bart Stupak. I don't know where that charge came from right there. Nobody out there believes this is going to. And this thing about the Social Security Fund is classic partisan nonsense. Okay, absolute nonsense. The Social Security Fund is challenged because there's more old people now than compared to the number of young people there are now, in a pay-as-you-go system. And anybody who understands that, who pays any attention to Social Security. Anyway, let's go to Bart Stupak. There was a straw man, a classic way to get some right-wing votes. Let's go down to Bart. Joe Barton. What do you make, Congressman Stupak, of Joe Barton in